Hello, welcome to AWS reInvent 2021. My name is Kumar Chellapilla. I'm the general manager for human-in-the-loop machine learning and AI services like Ground Truth, Augmented AI, and Mechanical Turk. Today, I'll be talking about a new service, SageMaker Ground Truth Plus, which is a turnkey labeling solution. And along with me, I have Rick Carragher from Samsara. He'll be talking about how Ground Truth Plus has been helping him with generating ground truth data. If you look at the trends, the growth of unstructured data is phenomenal and has been growing exponentially in the last few years. Unstructured data today makes up 80 to 90% of data generated and continues to grow by about 60 to 70% year over year. If you look at machine learning is really good at handling structured data that exists in tables, in your databases, whereas unstructured data, which is the more popular medium now, that's captured by things like pictures, audio, free-form text, documents, scanned documents, and so on. So machine learning and artificial intelligence systems need to scale to unstructured data in order to tap into the unstructured data and its growth over time. Data labeling at its fundamental root is the way to unlock that value. You can go from unstructured data to structured data via data processing and data labeling. So data labeling is a key aspect to unlocking the value in unstructured data and bring machine learning and AI to your applications. Let's look at a typical machine learning process. How does it look? What are its stages? You start with collecting and preparing training data. Part of that would be to label the data. Once you have labeled data, you choose a platform and an algorithm to train your ML model. Once you've made those choices, you go into building your actual machine learning workflow. You set up and manage environments for training your model. The models take labeled data and convert them into trained parameters in a model. Training and tuning is an iterative process. It takes multiple iterations. And once you have your machine learning model in your hand and you're happy with its performance, quality-wise, and performance-wise, then you deploy the model to production. Once you deploy it into production, you integrate it with your application, you iterate with your customers or your users, and over time scale that out to production. And once you've scaled it, you want to monitor it, you want to make sure that it's performing well and scaling well. So several stages. But the most important thing is that the very first step is to collect the right data and prepare it by labeling so that you can start thinking about building a supervised machine learning model. Right. Now, there are humans in this process, both in the data labeling stage and at other stages of the machine learning model development lifecycle. If you look at that as a workflow, here's a simple example of a human-in-the-loop ML workflow. You start with data labeling. I'm assuming you've already collected your data. We have services like SageMaker Ground Truth that we launched in 2018 that serve that purpose. This is a builder's paradise. If you want to build a labeling app, we give you all the ingredients. And as an engineer or a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, you can actually go in and build a labeling application. Once you have your labels, you go into model training, you pick your architecture. Once you're happy with the model that you've trained, you move to hosting the model. And this is where, once you start hosting your model, you can then integrate it with your client application and work through exposing the capabilities and features that are powered by machine learning to your customers. Now, you can imagine, once you have it in production, it's a living system. So over time, if you want to improve the quality, you will have some ability to monitor the system through human review. And if you set it up right, even in the beginning, when the confidence from the machine learning model is low, you can route those samples to an actual human review in real time and use services like Augmented AI that we launched in 2020 last year to then either correct the inference and send that back to the client, or collect those corrected inferences over time and feed them back into your next iteration of model training. So if you look at these two versions of humans in the loop, the services like SageMaker Ground Truth and Augmented AI can allow you to serve both the training side and the inference side of your machine learning development lifecycle. Now, if you look at data labeling alone, that in itself is pretty complex. Right? The way SageMaker Ground Truth exposes things, you have to go through several stages to build a data labeling application or a data labeling pipeline. Right? So you have to collect and prepare data even before you can label it. Labeling is about moving from unstructured data to structured data. So you need a guideline. Humans operate by reading guidelines and using tools to work on the unstructured data to then produce labels which are structured data. You have to pick a labeling platform, because if you're actually a builder, you want to be able to build a platform that serves your needs. You also need to select a workforce. In most cases, the people who build the labeling applications are not the ones that are going to be labeling. Plus, if you want to scale out your labeling application, you'll need a workforce. So selecting the right workforce, training the workforce, those are key aspects of developing a data labeling pipeline. And once you have those ingredients ready, you launch your application, your labeling tasks go through it, and then you have a loop to check quality. Quality is iterative, and there's multiple approaches to getting high-quality data from a data labeling pipeline. And then finally, you're ready with your label data, and then you move to training. Just so even the data labeling aspect today, from a builder standpoint, it's pretty complex and has several stages. So if you look at the challenges that exist with a service like SageMaker Ground Truth, it's a builder's paradise. You get to build all types of labeling applications. But if you look at this 4 stages, going from an idea for a labeling app to building a workforce management system and a workforce you're happy with, building a proof of concept, once you're iterating and happy with the proof of concept, you move to production. Along these stages, there are many things that are left in want, right? So what we're hearing from our customers is that even in the ideation stage, the persona we built SageMaker Ground Truth for was targeting engineers who actually would develop the application. But we have new personas like data operations managers and technical program managers who may not have access to engineering resources to build a new labeling app. So they need engineering resources, or they're not able to scale to kick off. And if you want to do a lot of different labeling tasks, many companies have tens, if not hundreds, of labeling jobs that they need to run, all unique. And so how do you scale even the ideation phase to new modalities and new workflows? The second thing is training a workforce is time-consuming. 2 reasons. One is your labeling guidelines are new, so humans take a little bit of time to learn to do that. In order to get high-quality data, you need to be able to train humans well. The second thing is there's also a certain amount of trust you have to build up. Security is very important, because in most cases, you will have an external crowd or an external group of individuals labeling for you, like data analysts. Right? And so both of them require you to be careful about setting up the security appropriately to satisfy your needs. You do all of this, then you move to proof of concept, and then you start iterating. The iteration does take time. You also have to think about budget. Some of these labeling tasks can be expensive to run at scale. Super valuable. Label data is effectively equivalent to code for engineering. It's very valuable on a per label or per line of code basis. And then this is sort of the data that goes into an ML model in terms of model training. So once you have your proof of concept ready, you're happy with the label quality, now you move into scaling into production. Right? So if you look at the last 2 stages, the turnaround is very important when you're doing a proof of concept. You want to iterate through things quickly, not take weeks to figure out how the label quality is working. You want to be within days, if possible, hours. Right? Second thing is moving from a small POC to production requires you to manage your budget carefully, because building up a workforce implies that you want to make sure that they're busy, utilization's high, and you're getting high-quality data right from the get-go. Right? So the last 2 stages can take several weeks, if not months. Right? In order to solve those problems, and based on the feedback we've gotten from the customers in terms of the features that they would like us to build, today I'm super excited to announce Ground Truth Plus. It takes everything that Ground Truth has and extends it to meet where the customer is. Right? So if you look at the premise of Ground Truth Plus, rather than working through this 6 or 7 stage data labeling workflow, from a customer standpoint, with Ground Truth Plus, it's a turnkey offering that makes it very easy for you to upload your data that you would like labeled, your unstructured data, to an S3 bucket. You work with the program manager on the AWS side to describe to them and share your labeling guidelines. There's a magic box where AWS does all the heavy lifting for you, undifferentiated heavy lifting for you. And on the other side, you actually pick up in a predictable way labels for your task. So from a customer standpoint, you have an S3 bucket where data to be labeled is coming in. You have a program manager you're working with that allows you to specify your labeling guidelines and work with you to make sure that you're getting the quality and the throughput. And then you can actually automate the output of that process by consuming labels from the S3 bucket. Now, part of that requires us to think about what is happening in that magic box that I mentioned. So if we look at under the hood in Ground Truth Plus, AWS is actually building and managing a workflow for you, which you would probably have built using Ground Truth. But we actually provide 2 additional capabilities. First of all, it's turnkey. So you don't need to have engineering background. You can actually be a technical program manager or a data operations manager. You're a domain expert in your space. You understand exactly what you need. You really understand your labeling guidelines. But you can rely on AWS to provide you the ability to build out a workflow. And we also work with you to ensure that the label quality is meeting your expectations, and the system scales to meet your throughput expectations. Right? We take care of all the project management behind the scenes. The other nice thing about Ground Truth Plus is that you have clear upfront pricing. Now, every labeling job is different, so we actually work with you to assess the cost of labels, and we give you pricing based on volume commitments. And there's significant discounts, and everything works beautifully through AWS billing. So as you consume your labels, you'll get a monthly bill, the same way all AWS services work. So you can pay as you go. Right? Now, with all of this, even though there's a magic box, under the hood, we give you full transparency. You get dashboards, you can monitor throughput, you can look at labels, you can give feedback, and we can iterate with you with transparency, even though we're managing the workflow and running the labeling operations for you. Now, let me talk a little bit about the expert workforce. One of the things we've sort of heard from our customers is that they really value several variables around the workforce. One is they want a highly skilled workforce. They want to be able to select what is important for them in the workforce. Privacy, security, cost, throughput, capacity. These are all variables that come into your discussions with Ground Truth Plus to find and build the right crowd for you. Right. If you look at Ground Truth, which we released in 2018 versus Ground Truth Plus, we actually are moving from a relatively simple tasks that builders can build to highly skilled trained workforces. Since we have a large workforce, because we're offering this service to multiple customers, all the customers on AWS, we can actually afford to specialize in various modalities. If you want computer vision expertise, we will already have a large crowd because computer vision and labeling tasks are very common. Same thing with language skills. If you want machine translation, if you want somebody who's skilled in Russian or Chinese or Mandarin for you to do transcription or translation, that crowd will already be there for you. So we take a lot of the undifferentiated heavy lifting and make sure that the crowd has the skills and they're trained on those. Finally, we are also offering with Ground Truth Plus AWS employees and an AWS managed crowd that allows you to make sure that your data never leaves AWS. And depending on your needs, if you're working in healthcare or financial or with fintech, we can guarantee you security and privacy with the data that you want labeled. So if you look at the Ground Truth Plus offering, what is the value proposition? We're bringing technology, processes, and services as part of the offering. Even though it's a tier 1 service, it includes technology, process, and services. The very first one is turnkey solution. We've taken a lot of undifferentiated heavy lifting and moved it into the service that we manage on your behalf. So the turnkey solution, like I mentioned, allows you to focus on your application, and we build and manage the workflow for you. We also are super conscious of two things, quality and throughput. Right? Your throughput expectations, your quality expectations need to be met. That's an iterative process. So we focus on a crowd that is highly skilled. We also have brought machine learning to the task of data labeling. A lot of our customers use machine learning when they're building ground truth applications because really it's an iterative process. You label data, you train a model, you look at the performance of the model, you find gaps, you go back, find more data in the gaps for the model, label that, and iterate. There's no reason why you can't bring your model with you when you're doing your second or third pass of labeling. And we do that on your behalf. We actually have a multi-step workflow. I'll walk through one example. And that allows you to inject machine learning in a couple of places to both improve the quality and the cost through machine assistance for labeling. I already talked about the expert workforce. We plan to have a very diverse and highly skilled workforce with sufficient capacity for most of the modalities of interest to people. We have several aspects to reducing cost. A skilled workforce can give you quality and also speed. So by having that pre-training in place, you can directly get to your task and finish your labeling jobs, which reduces cost for you. We also use a lot of machine learning and machine assistance in our workflows. We also use active learning to reorder and work with our customers in some cases to not necessarily having to label all of the data, but label part of it using humans, and the other part pre-label with machine learning and active learning, and then have humans just verify, which reduces costs for you. Finally, we also provide transparency and security. Through the whole process, even though we're building the workflow and managing it on your behalf, we give you the opportunity to add folks from your team that can monitor the throughput. In several cases, our customers are picking up daily or weekly drops of label data. We can also give you the ability to monitor the quality of the labels and give feedback in real time. And all of this is done in a highly secure manner. We ensure that your security needs are met. The data never leaves AWS, and only authorized Amazon employees have access to your data. Now, the nice thing is, with Ground Truth Plus, we're honoring all of the labeling UI and workflow customizations that are available with Ground Truth. There are over 70 workflows out of the box that you can come in and engage with. Many of these are available with Ground Truth. But the key thing here is that with Ground Truth Plus, we allow you to customize. So even though it's a text classification problem, you might have a few tweaks that you'd like to add. And the program manager will work with you to ensure that not only is the workflow set up, but we can also make the template updates for you. And with custom templates in Ground Truth, it's very easy to do that yourself or work with Ground Truth Plus and have that done by us on your behalf. So we've been beta testing Ground Truth Plus for about a year. And we've had many customers come back with very positive feedback. And I'm very excited today to be able to open that up to all AWS customers. For example, NFL has been using Ground Truth Plus to improve player safety by analyzing videos where during plays they understand how player contact's working and taking feedback from Ground Truth and Ground Truth Plus to then go back and improve player safety by giving them guidelines on how to react during contact. Similarly, Airbnb has been using Ground Truth Plus for text classification. And in this case, they actually wanted Mandarin customer feedback on Airbnb rentals and classify them into several categories, dozens of categories that allow them to then understand where to focus their improvements and to also get a clear quantitative sense for how their product is doing. Like, are the customers liking their rentals? What are the areas where they need improvements? And what are the areas where they should continue to do an excellent job? Finally, Samsara has been using Ground Truth Plus to improve driver safety. And I'll let Rick speak to that later in the talk. Let me talk a little bit about how the multi-stage workflow that we set up for you in Ground Truth Plus actually improves label quality. One of the stages is machine validation. So, similar workflow I talked about before. There's raw data you start with, unstructured. Humans annotate in the first step. So in the first stage, humans annotate. In most cases, you might consolidate labels from multiple humans and even have a human QC pass where the quality control team will then review the labels and give feedback to either the labelers or, if the quality is good, move to the next one. Now, typically, those are the two stages that you'd think of. In the middle, we actually have a machine learning model that can actually learn the task because you already have the data, you have the labels, and we know the modality. So we can actually, internally, we have a slew of ML models that we can bring in, and that model will learn to find outliers on the labeling tasks. Purely done in your workflow, your data doesn't leave the workflow, the model's only built ephemerally. But that model can then identify outliers, which we also send back to make sure that the machine is not agreeing with the human label. It's possible that it was a complex example that the machine couldn't learn. These machines are meant to be robust. They're not meant to give you the highest accuracy. Or it's possible that a human was tired, or the task was difficult and the human made an error. So that allows the quality control team to do a second pass, just to make sure that the labels are consistent. The nice thing is that machine validation works on a batch of labels. And all of you know that in order to build an ML model, you do need a batch of data to label. That's labeled. Now, once that's done, we give it to the customers. But we don't actually deliver the labels yet. Through the review UI, you actually can review. And since some of the labeling quality efforts are iterative, you can give feedback. And that feedback allows us to now go back and improve the quality again. Eventually, when we meet the customer's quality expectations, then we deliver those to the customer. So the main thing is that with this approach and this capability, we are actually helping you get the quality that you want. And there's an SLA around quality that we provide with Ground Truth Plus. And the way we allow you to ensure that we're meeting your quality expectations is through Review UI. Now, you don't need to review every item, because many of you want hundreds of thousands of labels, if not millions of labels. But we have a sampling scheme that allows you to review a subset and then give feedback. Finally, you get to accept or reject the data in batches. Now, I mentioned a little bit of the various components that go into creating a turnkey data labeling service under Ground Truth Plus. You have things like preparing data. You have things like creating the workflow. You have lots of process engineering and process excellence goes into making sure that all of these pieces work well together. What we've heard from our customers is that while Lego blocks are great in order to build solutions, it's also important to have the whole thing work well end-to-end. The crowd quality, or the labeling quality, the labeling guidelines, the actual process of ensuring that machine learning and humans are helping you get the best quality and also improve costs for you. Here's an example of some of the dashboards we provide. There's 2 or 3 sets of dashboards that you get with Ground Truth Plus. The very first one is all the projects that you run, your labeling projects, we have a portal where you can log in and review all of them at any given time and monitor progress. The second one is each project, it might have a lot of data you want labeled, but we have an understanding of delivering labels as quickly as we can. Some of them are on a daily cadence, some of them on a weekly cadence. And that allows you to think of the data you want labeled in batches. And so you can look at, in any given project, how are the batches going, and batch properties and so on. Finally, for throughput, you want to have dashboards and graphs so that you can understand how your label data is making progress. So I talked about going from building a prototype and doing a POC to scaling in production. So during experimentation, you have a small experimentation team where you want really fast turnaround. So the idea here is not doing a lot of labeling, but really you want to iterate quickly to get labels. And you have a small team of labelers. And once you hit your quality and you have a sense for the schedule you want for scaling, then you can scale that out to a large production team. And if you use Ground Truth Plus, that transition is seamless. And we also provide you with two aspects of capacity planning. We talked about budget planning and capacity planning when you go to production. Most of our customers want to know that the workforce that we've trained on their behalf will actually be working for them over a period of time, because once you've learned to label a certain task well, you want to continue to leverage high-quality labels from them. Right? So we offer you two kinds of capacity. One is you can have a reserve capacity where you can think of, hey, I would like to have 5,000 videos labeled every week. And that's usually my cadence. I'm going after 500,000 labels, but that's my capacity for about 2 years. However, in a given week, you may suddenly have an uptick and come back with, hey, I would like to have 2,000 more videos labeled this week. So we offer you the ability to have a dynamic overflow. Right? And a combination of dynamic capacity and static reserved capacity allows you to plan your labeling needs well. And most of you know that even though we operate in a continuous manner, if you have large labeling needs, investing in a crowd, investing in a workflow, and investing in getting the right quality will actually help you leverage returns. The other thing I mentioned is during this process, we can also optimize the cost of labeling by up to 40%. So for many customers, what we found is that there are two aspects. Getting high-quality data does not always have to be expensive. And we use machine learning and machine assistance under the hood to help you reduce costs. First, we have active learning. So if you're generating a labeled data set in isolation without ever training a model, you don't know if you already have a labeled data set that's large enough to satisfy the needs of training your model. So most people will be conservative, and they'll ask for a lot more labels than they need for the model performance that they're looking for. With active learning, we can actually monitor some of that in your data set and give you feedback on, hey, we've labeled a subset, and we believe that those would be sufficient to generate automatic labels for the remaining, and work with you on moving to automated labeling versus human labeling. The second one is we use pre-filling. For the Airbnb use case I mentioned, they wanted to categorize Mandarin customer feedback on from the residences that they had hosts for, and over time, what we found was that when we built a multi-class classifier for them to assist in labeling, the multi-class classifier achieved 99% accuracy, and subsequently, the humans really only needed to verify and correct, which gave them quite a bit of benefit once the model had learned to assist the human. So this is another one. Over time, over weeks, we're able to both improve quality and optimize costs for you. And high-quality labels don't always mean high cost per label. Let me walk through a demo for you. So we announced GA for Ground Truth Plus yesterday. Very exciting. So you can actually test this out. I'll walk you through in the next 5 minutes how the various steps look. These are video captures, and you can try them out. So Ground Truth Plus is offered as part of SageMaker. You'll find it right next to Ground Truth. Ground Truth Plus typically walks you through a 5-step process. The very first step is to request a pilot. And as you go through, there's a button right down there under the first step. You can request a pilot. Super straightforward. We ask you a little bit of information to connect with you, typically an email and a first name, last name. We also would like to know what type of data, unstructured data, you're trying to label. Right? Is it videos? Is it images? Is it text? Is it LiDAR point clouds? And then some optional fields around, in order to get ready for the consultation. So with this information, once you request a pilot, a program manager from our side will reach out to you to learn more about your labeling job and your labeling tasks. Right? And once you have that interaction with the program manager, and the program manager understands your labeling requirements, you can move to step 2, which is to upload your data to an input S3 bucket. The next step is to think about creating a project team. Remember we talked about transparency? Even though we're doing all the heavy, undifferentiated heavy lifting on your behalf and setting up the workflows and managing them, we actually allow you to create a project team that has access to both understanding the throughput. You can get access to dashboards, projects, batches, and also look at reviewing the data as it's getting labeled. So in order to create a project team, you actually go in and you create a Amazon Cognito user group, and you can right there add the emails of the list of folks that would be part of that group. Remember, these are, from the customer side, members who have access to metadata, projects, batches, and the ability to review the data that's getting labeled before we deliver the labels to you. So you can actually monitor throughput, you can monitor label quality, and we want you to give us feedback while the operations are happening. Many labeling projects get delayed because it takes several weeks, if not months, to generate a large label data set. And by the time the data scientist or ML engineer has actually looked at that specific data set, several months have gone by, and you're not happy with the label quality, and you have to go back and relabel or correct the labels to get the quality you want. Once you create the project team, you can actually look up the members in there. So that's kind of where it ends up. Once you've created a project team, I'll show you an example of how members in the project team can actually go to the project portal to explore projects, explore batches, and review labels. So you do that by clicking on the Open Project Portal. You sign in with your credentials for AWS. And the first thing you see is a list of projects. Here, this is a demo project we created for you. There's one project up there. There's some instructions on how it works. You can use the project portal to track projects. You can view batches of labeled data in each of the projects. And you can also queue up a new project if you'd like. So in this case, you get a list of all the batches in a specific project. Each project has a status. So it goes through several stages. I'll talk a little bit about how the batch in a project goes through various stages. And you can look up several pieces of information like total objects being labeled, the completed objects, how many have been completed, how many are remaining, how many have received feedback, and so on. Right. Now, in addition to looking at individual batches, you can also look at the metrics, the aggregate metrics. You can look at the metrics for the whole set of batches, or you could look at individual batches and delivery over time. Here, there's two examples of, of stats and charts and dashboards that you can get. And over time, you'll see richer and richer set of metrics and dashboards and throughput details over here. Now let's look at some of the stages of an actual batch. Right? I've kind of captured a screenshot. And if you look at the right, a batch of data, which is the atomic unit that we turn around for you, and you can accept or reject a batch when the labels are done in a timely manner for you, it can go through several stages. In the beginning, we're just waiting for you to upload your data. Right? And then there's a stage where data labeling has started. You can look at, once the data labeling has reached a certain quality and we're happy with it, we open it up for you to review. You can then review and accept it. And then once you've accepted it, you get delivery of that batch of labels. Let's look at an example of a project that has a batch that has been labeled and is ready for review. So we'll look at batch 19 over here. Sorry for the not so informative titles. We just put this together for a demo. But if you look at batch number 19, this is an object detection in vision use case. And this particular batch is ready for review. And there's a review batch tab at the top. If you look at it, there's a button up there. You can start, and if you can use that button to kind of start your review process. It'll load up the data and overlay the labels for you. You can see that this is an object detection use case with pedestrians and vehicles in there. It's from a CityScenes data set that's public. And you can look at each frame. It's a video tracking job, so it has multiple frames. In this case, you walk through 5 frames in the example. And let's say in one of the frames, you find that a bounding box is missing. Right there, there's a text box for you to give feedback. And you can go in and you can leave free-form feedback about the gap you found in quality, or if you have any guidelines for how to improve the label quality on that frame. This particular item gets tagged as something with feedback, goes back to the quality and the labeling workforce, and then they loop back with you. Now, suppose you're happy with the quality of a batch, you've reviewed it. You can now go in and pick up your labels. And the way you do that is you move from reviewing a batch to accepting or rejecting a batch. If a batch is bad, your rejected batch will redo the labels for you for free. If you accept a batch, that kicks it into delivering those labels that you reviewed and have met your quality requirements to be pushed to the output S3 bucket. And your downstream systems and AWS processes and applications or ML pipelines can pick up the label data once the batch has been accepted. So the delivery of label data to you in the output S3 bucket happens on a batch basis. So let me turn it over to Rick, my friend here, who's going to talk about how Samsara has been using Ground Truth Plus to improve their label quality and meet their labeling needs. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks, Kumar. Happy to be here and happy to talk to you a little bit about Samsara as well as how we've used Ground Truth Plus to improve driver safety. So just to introduce Samsara, we have built the Connected Operations platform. So our customers are the global operations, physical operations companies that power the economy. And our job is to help improve the efficiency, sustainability, and safety of their operations. Physical operations today are complex. Customers have many locations, many assets, many vehicles, and many drivers. And they want to make sure that that business is operating as well as it can. And so they're worried about whether their drivers are safe or whether their deliveries are happening on time. They're worried about costs. They're worried about how much gasoline they're using, or are the vehicles well maintained. We help solve these challenges through the use of plug-and-play IoT, wireless networks, and capturing data in the cloud and processing it through artificial intelligence. We're giving our customers unprecedented insights and make them more able to improve the efficiency of their operations. This is really causing a digital transformation in an industry that has been traditionally underserved by Silicon Valley. We have over 10,000 customers and 100,000 devices, hundreds of thousands of devices deployed in the field. And that gives us access to a tremendous amount of data. We capture data from our vehicles, things like engine RPMs, fuel levels, coolant temperatures. From assets, we can capture GPS location. From refrigerated trailers, we can capture the temperature. And of course, we capture a huge amount of video data, 38 billion plus minutes per year, from our AI-enabled dash cams in physical locations. The 2 trillion plus data points we are capturing in a year, probably by next year will double, and it's going to keep growing over time. This allows us to build excellent analysis capabilities and AI features that can help our customers to improve their efficiency. So just to give a couple of examples, Bragg Crane Services has been able to use our safety capabilities to avoid 43% of accidents. The story from Dorn's very interesting. They've used our idling detection as well as our route optimization technologies to save over 150,000 gallons of fuel. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about our video-based safety. So we deploy AI-enabled dash cameras, put them in the cabs of our customers' vehicles, and we use that to give real-time access into what's going on in the cab. We can use this data to coach drivers on avoiding behaviors that might result in accidents. It also helps with incident reporting and driver scorecarding. Of course, wrong button, sorry. Of course, we want to be able to use computer vision on these dash cameras. And so a primary cause of accidents is a distracted driver. I know that when I have my phone in my hand and I'm driving, I get a Slack alert, I'm distracted. I've sometimes scared myself a little bit more than I'd like. And so that's certainly the case for our customers. So we want to be able to help our customers, our drivers, be alerted when they might not have their full attention on the road and nudge them towards bringing their focus back. We're also building computer vision models to help other causes of potential safety issues or injury, like detecting whether they're wearing their seatbelt or whether they're getting a little too close to the driver in front of them. So now I just want to talk a little bit about how we've gone about training our models. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the distracted driver. So there's no off-the-shelf model that we can deploy for distracted driving. As such, there's no open source data set. And while we have a massive data set ourselves, that 38+ billion minutes per year of video, that data is not labeled. And the labels that we need to create to detect distraction are not simple. They're not a simple bounding box. And we'll have an example of what that looks like in a moment. Our data is also, our video data is our customers' employees. And so, of course, security and privacy is paramount. And finally, because we're training massive data sets, we need this to really fit into our training infrastructure. We've been partnering with Ground Truth Plus now for a number of months to help us solve these problems. We've been working with them to define our use case, define how we want to label our data sets. We've agreed upon timelines. We've agreed upon capacity and quality standards. And we've been collaborating very quickly through both communication with our program manager on a shared Slack channel. We've got a lot of confidence in AWS's ability to keep our data secure. And given that the labels are given to us over an S3 bucket, they fit right in to our SageMaker training infrastructure. We've been able to do this very cost effectively and in close partnership. And at this point, we have a fairly significant data set of labeled images, over 1 million instances. So I just want to give you a little bit of a demo of what we've been working on with the Ground Truth Plus team. So we have our AI-enabled dash cameras have both a driver-facing camera and a road-facing camera. On the driver-facing camera, the first two examples that you see in the top row on the left is our head pose labels. And so here, what we're trying to assert is whether the driver has got their eyes on the road. And so what we're capturing is pitch, roll, and yaw, the position of the head on the neck. This is a very, let's say it's a challenging label to get right. The second three images, we wanted to be able to tell our drivers when they have a mobile phone in their hand, and so we needed to classify all of the things that could be in a driver's hand, whether it was their mobile phone or perhaps a can of soda or some food. And then finally, the bottom row is from for a training set for our forward collision model. And here we're trying to capture standard bounding boxes of the vehicles that the camera sees, as well as labeling lane lines. So now we'll see some examples from our validation set. This first one is distracted driving, and here we're showing bounding boxes around the driver's hands as well as their head pose. And so we'll let this video play, and you can see how that works and how that driver is definitely not paying very much attention to what's going on the road. And I'll do it one more time just so that you can see it. The next one is simply mobile detection. Some of our customers purely want to notify a driver that they're on their phone, and please cut that out. So let's take a look at this one. Here, this driver is in a pickup truck and Oh, let me go back. Let's do that one more time. No, okay. We'll have to not see that one another time. And then finally, the forward collision model. Now, this is again from our validation set, and unfortunately, this particular example does show a collision. So our partnership with AWS Ground Truth has enabled us to really release some groundbreaking features to customers to prevent accidents. We're excited to continue to work with the Ground Truth Plus team as we continue to build more and more models that help the efficiency, sustainability, and safety of global operations. And of course, we are growing accordingly and are always looking for help. And so if you're interested, please do reach out to me. With that, I'll turn it back over to Kumar.
Thanks, Rick. Very exciting to see Ground Truth Plus help Samsara improve driver safety, which eventually will make our roads safer. Now, those of you who are wondering, how do I get my hands on Ground Truth Plus? How can I try it out? All you need to do is go to the Ground Truth Plus portal. In the console, you'll find it under SageMaker, and request for a pilot. As simple as that. And as I showed you, you need to share a little bit of information so that we can set up a consultation call with you, and then we can work with you on a pilot workload for free. So I'll encourage you to try out Ground Truth Plus. We are very proud of what we've built, and we believe it'll be dramatically impactful for helping you unlock the value in unlabeled data so that you can, value in unstructured data through labeling so that you can accelerate your machine learning and AI application development. Thank you. So we have time for some questions. You can use the mic. Yeah. Is the mic on? If it's easier, I can take questions on the side too.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about pricing. Is that something that product managers of two companies negotiate on, or is it some kind of template for pricing like EC2 that we can go and find at least a range before we want to jump into that? I think that's going to be very big share of the price of the project in the company.
Yeah, very good question. So the way pricing works for Ground Truth Plus is that you set up a consultation call. Like, for example, if you looked at Samsara's use case, it was a head pose 3D bounding box. If there's a template for that, we'll be able to immediately get you a rough estimate. But every task is different. Your quality bar may be different. Your crowd needs may be different. So it's important to have that conversation. We do have a pricing calculator that will help you get a quick price check. But the way to do that would be to actually work through a consultation call and possibly even do a pilot. Because if you're looking for directional, a consultation call will get you. But we also want to understand your workload so that we meet your quality expectations and your throughput expectations, and then pick a price that's optimal for you.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question in the workflow. Since the data there is a machine learning model to pre-label the data and then provide an information for the human labeler. I was wondering if we are evaluating the label quality, that because the data is pre-labeled by a model, and then will that introduce bias to the human labelers? And then when we're using those labels to feed into another like AWS classification model, will the labeled data be pre-biased like in favor of that classification model?
Very good question. Yeah, so the pre-labeling is something that we work with the customer on. In many cases, the pre-labeling is actually a model that they built in the previous iteration. So the customer is really aware of that pre-labeling model, and we are helping them pick the data that they would like labeled. And we also get the output of the model so that they can get cost benefits. So it's very conscious. You're right, if we do it without thought or care, there's a risk that we inject bias into the human labeling pipeline. But more importantly, the machine validation is a place we also catch a lot of these biases, where the validation setup will identify consistent errors that might have been missed.
Thank you. It was a good presentation. Two questions. One, if you're building a classification model, to pre-label data and it does well, as a customer, can we just ask for the model back and just, that's ultimately what we want is the model. So, can you deliver can the model be a deliverable rather than just the labeled data sets?
Yeah, so look, the goal of Ground Truth Plus is to meet where the customer is. Mm-hmm. And because it's really an ephemeral model, we work with you, and a lot of the times your model may become the pre-labeling model. We're happy to work with you depending on your use case. And we do build active learning models, and those artifacts you're welcome to. And as part of the consultation call, we can discuss if that's of interest to you. We'd be happy to help you continue to leverage that model in addition to the labels we produce.
The other question was, for PR reasons or other reasons, if a company cares about the workforce itself, the labelers, how much they're paid, what conditions they work in, is that part of the negotiation? Could you say, we want the labelers to be paid a living wage, or?
Very good question, yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with Ground Truth Plus is actually giving you a ton of flexibility on specifying all the things that are of importance to you, whether that be privacy or security or even ethical and responsible AI. Many of the leaders in AWS continuously think about how to build machine learning and AI tools and technologies in a responsible way. So depending on what is important for you, you can ask for, hey, either security reason, I just want this labeled by Amazon employees. I want this labeled only by people who have XYZ properties. Or you can just say, hey, this is public data. I'm okay with it's already from the web or it's already from a social media platform. I'm not too worried about it. But so we will meet you where you are, and that's one of the reasons we do a consultation. And that has implications for security, privacy, cost.
Hi, so for the auto label model, is it possible for the customer to specify thresholds for accuracy, precision, and recall?
Could you repeat that again, the first part?
For the auto label model that you guys use.
Yeah, so absolutely. So the way we think of active learning is sort of ranking and reordering a set to be labeled. And because you upload all of the data to be labeled, we can offer you labels in an order that we think would give you the maximum benefit from the labels. And you can pick and choose based on, it could be a threshold, it could be a rank, or you could because we offer you the ability to pick up your labels at a cadence like daily or weekly, you don't have to wait for several weeks for your whole project and all of the batches in the project to finish. And whether you're doing training on your side or you're having an active learning system help you, you can even verify whether the actual recommendation that, hey, 50% of the data is already been labeled. We believe the remaining ones are very similar to the ones we already labeled. Our active learning system is claiming that it has reached a stable point, and you can evaluate that. So we're happy to work with you on those.
Thank you for the excellent tool and the nice presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, like what I've seen or what I noticed in here is most of the labels are subjective. So you are trying to label based on certain set of known labels. Do you have anything for objective type of labeling? Objective type of labeling.
Object type, like object classification?
Kinda, yeah. When you do not have a specified or will specify the classes. So this is the one. Something like transcription. Like you might see it, if I say, describe the following photo or what you see in a certain scene, I might describe it different than how you describe it. So this is the first thing. The second thing is, in the past, I worked on a project where I was interested not just with the labels, I was interested with the annotations on the labels? Do you have something like this describing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we give you templates. Very good question, by the way. Machine learning's input has to be structured, but it doesn't have to have a pre-specified taxonomy. Like if you're doing classification versus tagging, many of our customers want us to have the labeler just tag. Tag up to 5 objects you see in the image. You don't give a drop-down with a set of classes, which you could if you were specifically aware of the fact that those are the objects, let's say, in a warehouse that you want to tag, versus if it's free-form input, you can even ask the human to label as many as they can or tag as many as you can. And what you get back is like a dictionary of strings. You would have to figure out how you can convert that into something more useful. Or maybe your downstream system is able to handle unstructured or free-form text, in which case you can connect there. Yeah, so one of the things we mentioned, that many of the templates will give you what we traditionally do, but tagging is not a very uncommon one. We've actually had customers who really, I'll give you one example. Many times you may actually have a taxonomy. You're like, oh, okay, I have 150 classes I've figured out, right? Mapping companies, if you look at street signs, you can say, okay, there's about 50 or 60 street signs, I'm happy with those. But in reality, there's 350 different kinds that the US DMV recognizes. Now, every time you encounter something new, you're like, oh, I wish I had that label. Since it was not in my set, it couldn't be labeled. You come back for another pass, and another pass. So that's totally fine. We only charge you for the incremental and additional tags you want. But you can probably avoid all of that by saying, hey, this is a street sign. What is it? Oh, it looks like a railroad crossing. Maybe you don't have a railroad crossing street sign in your taxonomy yet. All right. Thanks, everyone.